Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of our listeners are going to be able to relate to pretty directly, and that is meditation.
Yeah.
And specifically,
Big topic.
it is a big topic. We could do, a whole series of deep dives on meditation, but today we're going to be looking at it through the lens of a busy mind,
Okay.
and we are going to be doing that with an excerpt from a story called Story 65.
Okay.
And this story is basically an account of one of Osho's talks
Oh, cool.
back when he had his ashram in Pune.
Right.
And it sounds like from the description, hundreds of people were there,
Wow.
to hear him speak about meditation.
Yeah.
And right out of the gate, the story starts with him posing a question to the audience. And he says, can meditation be achieved without techniques?
Without techniques, huh?
Yeah. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks for a second.
Yeah, I mean, think of breathing exercises or, there's lots of different techniques that people use.
Right. Like, what is meditation if it's not a technique?
Exactly.
And his point is that, all of those things are tools, but meditation itself is not something that you do. It's something that you are. It's like it's our natural state of being.
Okay, so if we're already meditating, in a sense,
Right.
why is it so hard to actually experience that?
Right. Well, he uses this really great analogy.
Yeah.
He says that, we all have these busy minds, and our busy minds are like dust covering our eyes. And it's that dust that's preventing us from seeing clearly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what is the dust? Like, is it just our to-do list?
Right.
Is it, the errands that we have to run?
Sure.
And it's, it's kind of all of that, but it's also like anxieties about the future.
Yeah.
Replaying things from the past that didn't go the way we wanted them to go. Judgments about ourselves, judgments about other people.
Right.
Just this constant stream of mental chatter.
All that stuff.
That's the dust. Yeah, and so then the question becomes, well, okay, so where did the techniques fit in?
Right, because he's not saying that they're useless.
Right. No, and he makes it very clear that the techniques are tools.
Okay.
They're like, he kind of uses this analogy of like cleaning cloths for our eyes.
I like that.
So, we've got the dust on our eyes. The techniques are like the cleaning cloths to remove that dust so that we can see clearly.
So it sounds like he's saying that the techniques aren't the goal of meditation, but they're a way to get to the goal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so if the techniques aren't the goal, then what's the best way to think about them? Are they all kind of doing the same thing, just in different ways?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because he's saying that,
Okay.
just like our fingerprints are all different. Our minds are all different.
That's true.
And so the dust that accumulates is also going to be different.
Right, we've all got our own kind of mental baggage, right?
Exactly.
That we're carrying around.
Yeah. And so because of that, just like you wouldn't use the same cleaning cloth to clean up every single type of spill.
Sure.
Different meditation techniques are suited to address different types of mental dust.
So I guess that's why there's so many different techniques out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's like, how do we know which cleaning cloth is the right one for us? I mean, I feel like we need a whole other deep dive just on that.
Yeah, we could definitely spend a whole episode talking about different techniques and which ones are good for which situations. But maybe for now, we can stick with this idea of
Yeah.
meditation being this natural state and how our busy minds make it hard to access that.
Yeah. And he actually uses this really funny anecdote to kind of drive this point home.
Oh, I love his anecdotes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember the one about the dying man and baseball in heaven?
Oh, yeah. I think I know that one. Isn't that the one where the guy calls his friend from the afterlife
Yes.
with the good news and the bad
Yeah,
news?
that's the one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, maybe you should share it with our listener.
Oh, yeah, sure, you bet.
Okay.
All right, so this guy's on his deathbed, and he says to his friend, he's like, hey, when you get to heaven, he's like, could you do me a favor?
Yeah.
He's like, would you mind just letting me know if they play baseball there?
Yeah.
So the guy passes away,
Right.
and sure enough, a few days later, the friend gets a phone call,
From heaven.
and it's his buddy on the other line.
On the other line from heaven.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, I got some good news and some bad news.
Right.
He's like, the good news is they do play baseball in heaven.
Oh, no.
The bad news is you're pitching next Sunday.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does this baseball story tie into this whole meditation conversation?
Well, I think what's interesting is the punchline is all about the element of surprise.
Yeah.
Right? The man is so excited to hear about baseball in heaven, and then bam, he's like up to bat.
Yeah.
And I think Osho uses this to kind of illustrate a similar point about meditation. Which is like, the good news is meditation is this natural state. It's already there.
Just like baseball in heaven.
Yeah. Just like baseball in heaven, it's waiting for us.
Yeah.
But the bad news is our minds, with all their dust,
Yeah.
all their stuff, make it kind of hard to get there.
Yeah.
Like, we're surprised by how hard it can be.
So it's not that meditation is difficult, it's that our minds are difficult.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
It's like we think we can just show up and be peaceful. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's work.
Right. It takes practice, and it takes, figuring out which technique is right for us to get rid of the dust.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. This is making a lot more sense to me now. But, okay, say someone's listening to this, and they're like, look, I can barely, find time to eat lunch. How am I supposed to sit around meditating for an hour?
Right.
Where do we even begin with this whole, finding the right technique thing?
Well, I think, the first thing to let go of is this idea that meditation requires these grand gestures.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go to a cave in the Himalayas or something.
Yeah.
And, just sit there for hours and hours.
Right.
I think meditation can be as simple as, bringing awareness to your breath for a few minutes.
Okay.
Or noticing the sensations in your body as you walk.
So it's more about finding these little pockets of stillness throughout the day rather than blocking out all the noise.
I think that's a really great way to put it.
Okay.
It's almost like building a muscle.
Okay.
The more we do it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, and then maybe those little pockets can kind of expand
Yeah, exactly.
until you're, kind of carrying that mindfulness with you all the time.
Yeah, it's not about escaping from our lives.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
But rather just being more present within them.
Okay.
Whether it's washing the dishes,
Yeah.
waiting in line at the grocery store,
Right.
even just sitting in traffic. We can use those moments to cultivate awareness
Okay.
and a sense of peace.
I really like that. So we're not separating meditation from our lives. We're weaving it into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the real power lies, you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
because when we can tap into that, even amidst all the chaos,
Mm-hmm.
it changes how we show up,
Yeah.
how we respond,
Right.
how we experience things.
I love that.
Yeah.
So listener, I'm curious what's resonating with you?
Yeah. What are you thinking as we're talking about this?
What's standing out to you?
What are you noticing?
Yeah.
I'd also invite you to think about
Yeah.
how you relate to busyness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it as an obstacle
Yeah.
or as a playing field?
That's such a good question because
Yeah.
it's, there's no right way to meditate.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you,
Exactly.
what helps clear your dust
Yeah.
and, allows you to connect to that stillness.
That's right.
This has been really great.
Yeah.
I think it's time to start wrapping things up.
Oh,
I want to leave our listener with something
Go
to
ahead.
kind of think about.
Yeah.
Take away from our deep dive today. Something to kind of ponder.
Okay.
So we've been talking about, meditation techniques
Mhm.
and how they're the key to getting to this meditative state.
Yeah.
But what if it's not about achieving anything at all?
Mm.
What if it's just about being?
Okay.
Could it be that all of these little moments of mindfulness that we're talking about,
Right.
could those actually be meditation in and of themselves?
No, that is a really interesting question.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then it's it changes everything.
Yeah.
Because then it's meditation isn't this thing that's separate from our lives that we have to, carve out time for.
Mm-hmm.
It can be just, woven into our daily activities.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I mean, it's powerful to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe the path to inner peace is not as elusive as we think.
Yeah. Maybe it's right there in front of us all the time.
Maybe it's already inside of us.
Yeah. And all we have to do is just notice it.
Exactly. Be present.
Be present.
That's it.
Yeah. It's we're looking for this big, profound experience.
Right.
When really it's just these little tiny shifts.
Little moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're available to everyone.
Yeah. That's what's so cool about it.
You don't have to be a monk
Right.
to experience this.
This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah.
I feel Osho's words from this story, they've planted a seed,
Yeah.
and I'm curious to see what grows from it.
Totally. And just like any seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs nurturing.
It needs the right conditions.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I would encourage you to, listener,
Mm-hmm.
is take what we've talked about today
Yeah.
and just start experimenting.
Play around with it.
Yeah. See what resonates with you.
Yeah.
What feels good.
Yeah.
What works.
Yeah. What kind of dust is in your mind?
That's a good question. What kind of dust
Uh,
are we dealing with here?
because it's different for everybody.
It is.
Yeah. And some days are going to be easier than others.
Yeah, of course.
That's just the nature of it, you know?
You're going to have days where it's
Mhm.
like,
Where your mind is just like a runaway train.
yeah, you just got to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Just bring your attention back.
Back to the breath.
Yeah,
And you know it's a journey.
it is.
It's not about
It's not a destination.
reaching some end goal of meditation mastery.
No, it's about enjoying the process
Yeah.
and just being present with where you are.
Yeah. Just embracing that stillness that's already there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up.
Yeah.
As always, thank you so much for joining us for another deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon.